Hello guys, good evening. Welcome to this episode in the GitLab series. So in this episode guys, we would Dockerize an application, and today I've just chosen for us to Dockerize a React application for use in GitLab CI/CD. Basically what I mean by that is I just want an application because for you to Dockerize something, you've got to have an application you're Dockerizing. And today it happens that I chose to Dockerize a React application that I developed previously. And this is just a basic React application that shows a basic homepage and some features. What this React application uses an API behind the scene, but today I choose not to spin up the API. We'll just do something simple. Over time, as we journey in this series, I would actually spin up both. But for today, it's just going to be a React application that we're going to Dockerize. And in the next series, hopefully, we will then push that up to the GitLab pipeline where we'll then build this React application. And then we can see how to build a Docker-based application in GitLab. So let's go and Dockerize this quickly. So here we are. So I'm going to take this offline and then come here. So here we are. We got this application that I built actually. So this is telling you, let's zoom this out a little bit. This is telling you what this is exactly. Just this is a React. A React, for those that don't know, is just a front-end framework or sort of library. Basically, some people have argued that it's not a framework, it's a library that is used to build a UI web application basically. And in this React, I have created a functionality that will do CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete. These acronyms here are just, these letters in this acronym are basic fundamentals or like basic things that you need in a modern web application. So you can kind of read something, you can kind of create something like submit a form, you can kind of update a form or something, and you can kind of delete something you created. That's basically what it is. And then here I've just nicknamed it web. So let's dive in and just go quickly through. So this is just the application. Is really basic, but if you look on this pipe basics as well, you can see that this is the only thing we've got is this pipeline we got before, and then the templated readme. I think this readme for now we can lose it, and then probably over time we'll write our own one, but that's looking busy now, so let's lose it. So this is just this basic pipeline we've been building. So what I would also do is that I will actually go here and just create like let's say these are old docs where we can copy some old documents like this one. I think for now I will just rename this pipeline. So I'll just call this one old, probably like 1, and then just do that. So I'll just drag this so it doesn't work anymore. We'll need to create a new one. Okay, so I just close that. So let's walk through this React application quickly. So let's start from the README about the application. This application has been fully customized by myself. So here it is. These are just what the features. How do you run this application? I'll make this application available actually on this GitLab, so you can clone it if you need to, and then just build up on it and just use it to do whatever you want. So just clone you can just clone the application. What does it do? We can then navigate into the directory, install. This is what you do to restore npm packages in the repository if you're using npm. If you're using a yarn, please do that, and that's that. The only 2 environment variables that this thing use is the API based URL, but for today I chose not to specify that. I'm going to be showing you the placeholder I have already. So if you go here, you can see this is when I was trying to deploy this. So let's close all of this actually, just 2 seconds. So you can see I was trying to deploy this on a in situ instance. But I think for the sake of today, we can just do localhost. Actually, we can leave it that way because I'm not even enabling the API. So don't worry about it. Okay, so this is what it's going to do. And this is going to be the API port as well. So this says replace this address, and then this one on the replace the API port as well. Okay, so what are you going to do to use this? To run it, if you want to connect it to the API, just to spin up the API somewhere, it doesn't matter where, and just export the address to the API in this format, and then just run npm run start UI, and this will get it started. Simple as that. Or just do it this way if you're using a yarn, and then go to this address and it will be available. So that's it really on this. So come with me as we like go and dockerize this application. So the first thing, so let's close that. The first thing we'll do really is we'll see the readme. The next one is to come over here. Still retains the same name, nothing serious here. These are basic dependencies in React application if you have done React before. Otherwise, you really don't need to worry yourself too much. And the next one here is the important bit really. This is where we actually start the application. So you can see if you do npm start React, it would start this one. You can start a React UI as well. You can use this one. Doesn't matter. So this is start, and it starts when you are running without a web server actually. Now if you have a web server, you actually build and then deploy that way. This is for the unit test, and then this is eject really. So that's how you do this to actually get things up and running. This is package log. Package log doesn't really do anything. It's just a mirror of this. When you run npm install, which is this, both of this node underscore module and this one can just be restored automatically when you do npm install. So I've just deleted them so you can see what they are, that you can just restore them. Actually, let's go and restore them quickly. So just do npm install. Actually, for us to do that, we need to, because this project is within a directory, I like to keep things within directories, subdirectories. So just go there and just do this is React web application. This is it's asking me, say yes, right? So here I'll just do npm install just to restore the packages. When I issue this command here, it will simply just restore the package -log.json. It will just take, as I said, it's just a mirror of this. And then if you want to understand more, we can talk about that later. And then it would also restore the node underscore module, which is the actual libraries itself. So I'll just do that. This will take a minute. Okay, this restoration is done. You can see it's got some vulnerability anyway, and but you know, this is restored, and you can see that there is node underscore module. If you open it up, it's a kind of warm. But I'll just close this up, and if you go here, you can see this one as well. So that's restored, meaning that this and this file and this directory are dynamic. But the only part that you really want to worry yourself about is, as we said, this is the default one anyway that I supply. The only part you need to worry is this source code here, and then this one. So let's start with the public. The public is in React, what contains your favicon, and an index file, like basic things really. These are like, it's auto-generated, but you can customize in React when you create React by default. This one here, if I close some of these, they're now busy. What we have simply just the major part really is this app.js. I created this in JavaScript, so you can see here that I can just change this to my company name. So I'll just say LTD here. Just close this. This is the application that we're going to deploy today. Really, it doesn't really do much, but let's just go and spin it up. The rest are just like JavaScript things that this is the kind of the browse route, and then these are like custom how I invoke the API. This file, this code here would actually help to invoke my services. Call them services here. So you can see each of these is calling out, making get, post, put, and delete calls. So you will make those calls to the API, but unfortunately API is not running. So to keep it simple really, and then these are the components. Component, you've got add these are just like respective pages that is fulfilling the functionalities. And then this one is for tutorials. So I just made this application for tutorials. And then the last bit really is this deploy. This deploy is where I'm keeping, especially this is like a custom thing, custom made, just where I'm keeping like production things for now. But I will explain things more later. So let's go and just spin up this locally and just see how it looks. Let's go here. All I'm gonna do is to clear this this place and just do npm, and I'll say run start. We can do start. You can also say start UI. Remember what we said here is this is the command here. We say first one is start UI, and this one is start. The start UI simply just does React script start. But obviously sometimes there is if you're running like some version of Node, it gives you an error. So I just made two anyway. So this one is going to, bypass the legacy one and just, and the legacy issue and just start. So let's say start UI for the time. If it doesn't work, we go to npm start. So this is now spun up here and it works. So here it says compile successfully. So if I go here, you see the application is up and running. So you can see this is home. This is the home address or home page. And so you can see here, it just brings in. So if I click on this, it just takes me to where I can do things. That's the application. Really is quite simple. I've just kept it simple. So okay, let's so that's the application. So today let's go and Dockerize this application. Well, there are two ways you can Dockerize things these days. Recently, I think a few years ago, Docker came up with the concept of Docker init to actually help you to get started with the process. It will ask you a few questions and it will just Dockerize the application for you. Sometimes there's a whole noise and loads of rubbish you put in. And because I know both ways, like to either to follow that Docker init process or to do that manually myself, I quite prefer to do it manually by myself, but I'll show you both ways. So let's just go to the command line here. Well, this terminal is now busy because it is being used by that running application. Well, we can just kill the application if we want to, just to because we don't need that application just now. So what we'll do to Dockerize that is to make sure you have Docker installed on your machine. That's a prerequisite. So what I'll do here, I'll just do Docker version. So here is the version of the Docker that I'm using. So what I need to do is to say Docker init and press an enter. So if I do that, there'll be like, I'm just going to maximize this. There'll be like loads of questions that you need to go through. So how this thing works is it will just create when you eventually, if you succeed, it will add these 3 or 4 files here. Well, that's by default or by following the automatic process. But here, so you say, I have detected that you're doing a Node.js project. These are other ones like PHP, Go, Python, Rust, all of these. Well, if you don't want any of these, you can quit. If you're happy with this, which React is in Node, yeah, I'm happy with that. So all I can do is just to press an enter. So that's Node. The next one is say, what's the version of the node you want to run? Well, it's picked up that I am on 20.15.0. Yeah, that's correct. I just want to run on that. Which package managers do you want to use? Well, this is just like npm yarn or pnpm. So these are just, I like to stay with the default. So I just, do you want to run npm run build? Well, that's the script that we would want to run. What this thing mean is this here. So if you go here, whatever it is that is the script you specified, you can just do that. If you want to do build, well, our own build, if we want to do production, would include this production, or you can include this. You can actually go and change this later. It doesn't really matter. You can answer yes and just change it later. If it is yes, you say yes, press an enter. What directory is your build output going to go to? Comma separated if multiples. Well, for now, I'll just, whatever directory, wherever you want your build out to go, you can let's go back to this and see. So in this place, if you have a special directory, If you don't have, I think it's supposed to be safe to just say enter. That should be fine. I'll just press. Also, it says sorry, it's required. So let's say, well, I just want you to go to like build as an example. Okay, so that will just create that and just do that. It will just pretend to do that within the Dockerfile it's going to create. What command do you want to use to start the application? Is it npm start? So you can type npm start if it is what you want to use to start it up. Once we Dockerize these things, I think the best thing for us to do once it's Dockerized is to actually just start it up inside inside of the web server, which is in this case we're going to use NGINX. Anyway, so if you want, just answer. If you can, if you don't know, just select what is there already. Let's just say npm start. So what port are you going to listen to? It has a default port there, which is 3000. That's the port that React spin up on. So you can use that as well. Everything default. There you go. So it has created all of these things now. Just pay attention to these 4 files. Let's go there and just have a look. First one is Docker so let's go. Let's minimize this one. So the first one is Docker ignore. These are the paths or files that Docker can ignore when you want to do Docker push and Docker build and things like that. It doesn't do any other job other than to help to make Docker thing that you created not to be bloated. For now, this is Docker Compose. We're not going to use this. I'm going to like get rid of this for now. And then this is the main one. So if we see, it's created Dockerfile. This is the main one that we are interested in today. Here is Compose, and this is README. Well, we don't care about README at the minute. Okay, so we have, the main file here, but you can see, sometimes when you run this file, you might get into like version issues and something. So it is the machine that has scripted these things, it's quite busy really. Well, this is, and it's also a basic Dockerization really. So, and you can run this, but this is also going to run on the principle that just like as if you're running this locally, you just spin up when you start this Docker image, it will run it as if you're just running a local project. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do today is to run this React application as if I am running this from a web server. In fact, running from a web server. An example of a web server in this case will be an NGINX, as I mentioned. We will be talking in this series about all of that. NGINX, what it is, we'll come to that. But let's go in and dive. So here for me, as I said, I'm not going to use this option because at best you can see that it's not even complete to what I want it to be. So I like to do so I right click here and delete it actually. So I just delete that and just close this one. So that all of those things are gone now. In fact, I'm going to also delete this one. So that's one way. Second way of doing this is simple. Either to come into this place, right click here and create a file and just name it Dockerfile. I mean, you can really call it whatever you like, Dockerfile. Or even just go to terminal and just do touch and create a Dockerfile, touch, and say Dockerfile. Press and enter. Some people just say touch Dockerfile. Probably they'll just add prod. You can create as many as you want. Just be specific which one you want to use. So in some project, you see people, they will create for production, they will create for development, they create differently, separate files. So for here, I'll just do .dev, press and enter. So I've got 2 now. None of this has anything inside. Anyway, so let's concentrate on one. So let's do this one for prod, for instance. So what are we going to do here? I'm going to like collapse this so we can see what I'm typing. So what are we going to do? The first thing we will do is that I want to deploy this as if I'm doing a production build. And to do that, I'm going to start cracking on. So I'll just do, from. And here, what's the base image? Because for any Docker that you're going to build, there has to be a base image that you're going to start it off of, more like an OS that you want to build on. So here I'm going to build, because it's a Node.js project, I'm going to build from node image. So the latest one, I think we can go and search the tag is I think the last one I remember was Alpine, and Alpine is going to give me 3.8, 3.9, whatever. We can pick the latest. Really, here it is. This is my plugin selecting these things for me. Well, if you're building this and you have a hope of at some point like referencing this image you built, you can just use as to kind of name it or label it. So as, give it a name. For instance, I can say a build. This build of a name here can be anything, whatever you like, call this. It is now, when everything finishes, it will just store it within this label. That's all. So what's the next thing we're going to do? For me, I just say, let's create a work directory. Work directory or work there is just a path where your codes will be stored. Each time this image is downloaded, it will make this directory. For instance, if I say here app, you just make directory as an app and switch into it. It will create a directory and switch into it. So this one actually creates a directory and switch into it, right? So this will create it. So the environment, the place I'll be working will be within here. But there's something else I like to do. I like to actually configure my system path and put it as environment variable. So here, system path is configured this way. So the system path will be path. Well, in the past, you used to do key value here. This would now be the path. But recently, I think Docker is now encouraging us to just do. So here, the first path I want to add will be node underscore modules, like that. So just God help me the spellings. Yeah, node underscore modules /bin. This is the path where all of those dependencies that we downloaded will be. This is the path. So sometimes actually, because I don't trust my typing, I just copy it and paste just to be clear that I am correct. So if I do that, and then I will say, remember the way it's done in Linux, you just do path here. There you go. So that's, this one would make sure that all of these things will get to your system path, and you can just run things from wherever you are. Okay, so now is now the major part, which is to copy. And in the copy, we're going to copy some of the key files here and directories and move them into this Docker file that we into this place. Now let's do that. Let's start with copy. So we say copy. You can see here copy from source to destination. So let's do that. So what's going to be our sources? Copy the first one, which is package.json. So package.json, and we're going to copy this to the destination. The destination will specify this really, nothing else really. And then the next one is going to be copy. We want to copy so let's copy the source directory. So we say source /app, and then this one I'll just make a source as well within. Okay, so this will copy source to source. I mean, some people do copy, some people just go and copy, like they say something like this, say copy like this. They do, oh sorry, copy, and they say dot to dot, which means copy every single thing. I don't do that, because if I do that, my Docker image or Dockerfile will be too big. So I'm just showing you a very much polished way of doing things really. And then what's the last thing that I want to copy here now? I want to copy this deployment config. This is a thing I said I kept here on purpose. I mean, this, you can't see this anywhere else, but for now I'm just copying it through. We will talk about everything in details much later. So here I'll just copy this deploy. So if I copy this directory deploy, and actually let me just copy the specific things there within that. So I just copy the im file, which is im.production. So I just do production, and I'll copy it into the app as actually. So here are the 4 things. I really don't need anything else. This is quite heavy. When I build my image, it should just restore itself. So I've copied this one. I have copied the public, and I have also copied the source. Those are my codes. I don't need this as well. This was auto-generated a few minutes ago. This environment files, you shouldn't really be checking it in. Actually, this is git ignore, and then that's it really. This one is automatically generated. Well, we copy this one. So if you go back in here, you see that actually let's delete one of these because there's nothing inside. It's complaining anyway. We copied that one here as well. All right, so that's copy complete. What's the next thing we need to do? Let's run the React, which is the where the previous Dockerization by Docker init ended. Let's just run it, and by running it, we just kind of restore the packages and build it. So here, let's run it. Let's say let's restore the npm packages and then build the React app. Right, let's do that. How do we do that? So we use the word run. Run command is saying run install. I like to actually force it in case, but you don't need to use that F there really, to be honest. If you change the commands, I mean, it reduces the process you're doing or you're running. And let's just change it. So here would be prod. Let's go and show you. So if I tab here, because it's a chain command, so this thing means that you should run this and this with the same run, but you can take these two out and still run here, but it creates so many processes anyway. I don't want that. So this is the build prod that I want to run, which is, if you come here, it's going to run this one. And what does this do? Well, what it does is it just sources before it runs. It just goes to this file and it will source the content out. Assuming the API is running there, it would see it. We just source the content. If you have a port, you specify the port here as well. These are just API details. Source it and it will just run React build, which is still the same as this one actually. So the only thing this is doing special is that it is trying to source the config. By sourcing config, what I mean is that it's going to make the config content available within the environment of the machine. Okay, so let's close that. Let's go back to this. So that's what this will do, and that's the end of that really. So but hey, the next thing I want to do is if it builds it here, that's fine, but I need to use NGINX to deploy that. So NGINX, using NGINX, using NGINX, NGINX to deploy React app. How can we use NGINX to deploy React app in Dockerization? Well, as you can see here, the first thing we need to do is to actually just go and get that Docker image. So this is it's called multi-stage Dockerization. So I'm doing using two Docker images to achieve the same thing, just all in one run. So the first thing we do is let's go and grab NGINX image. So we just type NGINX here, what version or what tag. Well, I know about version 125. That one is the last one I've used, 125.55 and Alpine. I like to use Alpine because it's lightweight, as you know, very, very lightweight. So I just use Alpine. Now you can choose from all of this now. This is Alpine Slim. You can just use that really, but let's just keep it to Alpine. I think I have tried this version before as well, and it worked. Okay, so we'll take from this. If you also want to name this, you can say as, but I'm not going to come back to using this anymore again. So what's the next thing I need to do here? The next thing I need to do is to remove the Alpine. But when you take this NGINX, it has a default config file. Because I'm going to have my own config here. In fact, let's create that config. Okay, let's write the code first, and then we can remove that. So we'll say by default, NGINX will have its own config file. I like to remove that because if I don't remove that, it might conflict with what I want to copy. So let's remove the default NGINX file. So I'll say NGINX, and I will say it is located in conf.d /default. That's where it is. It is usually located. Sorry, default. Spelling will be a problem for me this evening. .config. So this is the default location where this thing usually stays. So if I remove that, well, I need to copy a new one really. So let's go and copy a new one. To copy a new one, wherever yours is located, well, I'm going to create like an empty one now. So I'll say an empty one today would be something like, let's call it what it is. Let's say NGINX, NGINX.conf. That's what I'll call it. Call it whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, so this is empty at the minute, but I want to copy it into, so this, I'll say where it will be located will be deploy /conf, which is, it will go to this deploy. It will take this nginx, just check the spelling one more time, nginx, and then we copy this to that default location where we deleted things off from. So we deleted things from Etsy, and then nginx, and where else is it? Config.d, that's where we deleted, and then default. So this is default. Sorry, I didn't spell that default correctly. I would have been in trouble. So this is the default that it would so this is the default that we need to replace here as well. So put it here. So it will copy this and it will automatically rename it to default. That's what it will be. All right, so that's the first thing I have done. When we have finished, we need to copy the content we built from up here. Remember, we named this, after it will build and finish, it will store itself as build. So we need to copy from build. This auto suggestion is already giving us a clue. So copy from this build. What do we need to copy? We need to copy what we have built. What we built was called, if you remember, we called it build. So just take this and then we just put it. And where is it located? Here. It is just because you remember we created this, so it will just keep it there. So we need to just put it there, and then we'll copy this and put it inside user/share/nginx/html. That's where we'll keep this thing. And then the last thing we need to do is to expose a port. It's really important you expose your ports. I mean, sometimes it should really work, but exposing is sort of like having a proper manual. So let's expose port. So we say expose port. What port was that? We say port 3000. So that's the major thing. The last thing we need to do with NGINX is to actually go and spin up the NGINX. So let's do this. And the way we can spin up this is to do NGINX. The command to spin it up is nginx minus, actually it can be, if you can type what it is the command. Actually, let's go and type this outside here so you can understand. The command to start nginx is nginx minus g minus daemon. So like that, daemon off. Here is the command to start up nginx. But when you're putting it within the CMD, it's important that you actually separate things out. So you just do that, and then say minus g. Again, or anywhere you have a space is where you need to have a new one. You can see the next one is daemon, and then so this daemon off, we'll just take it that way, and then we'll put it here. Yeah, so that this way is actually much better, so that Docker can run and pick it up. So remember, check the spelling correctly just to make sure you're fine. Daemon, yeah, daemon off. So this is how to now Dockerize these things. So everything else here is now fine. You can go through this again. We can share the code later on the GitLab repository. Put the link in the comments. So the next thing we need to do now, so I'll close all of this and just close everything. So we'll go back here and go to this place we created this. So let's create a basic, just a basic for the time being. We're going to create a basic NGINX file that can serve a React app. It's just a web server. To do that, we just create a server, and within this server, what do we need to have? We just need to specify what we need. So what do we need? What we need here is so let's this is just going kind of a sec. So here let's spec out what things we need. The first thing we need here is the server is the server name. So we'll go server name. The server name can be anything at all for now, because we're not deploying. It can be, actually, let me use my own domain, but you can just call this anything right now. Say sonidea.com actually, instead of .co.uk. And then the next thing you need is where this will listen to. So where do you want it to listen? Well, for now, we're just listening to port 3000, isn't it? Again, I mean, you can also like listen to IP address 6 as well. So in that case, if you want to do that, just do listen. And in this case here, what I want to do is just want to, for IP address 6 is this way, and then you just do that way 3000 as well, like that. So it's easier that way for you, but you don't have to have the two. Okay, so that's done. The next one, just make sure that the file is gzipped as well, actually. So I just do gzip, and I'll say it's off. So to make sure it's not there, just to keep things simple. So, and then the very last ones are like your location. So I would explain in details, but when this web server is up, if somebody goes to a browser and go to the home path of that, so let's say localhost whatever, and then put this / here, that's where it will route it to. So that's what that is. This is the / here. So you actually configure what you want happening. So let's the first thing you want to do when somebody hit that, it should take the person to the root. Where is the root? Well, the root we specify this one here. If you remember in our Docker, there is the root here. This is where we'll take the person here. This is it. HTML. Sometimes people actually make mistake in spelling these things. This is HTML. So here's the root. Just take this, make sure it's the same. Paste it here. Okay, well, I don't care about the spaces here, but it's not really, I think too much space is not good. And I got to here. Let's take it out. It can keep you there for days. So again, this is user, share, and NGINX, and HTML. So make sure this part is really correct. So I just do it that way. Right, so anything else within that HTML file is fine. Then the next thing I want to worry about is the index file. Where would the index file be? What would the index file be? Index file can be two things. Well, the first one can be index.html or index.htm. These are the two things it can be. It cannot be anything else. Well, that's that. So the next one we want to try finally is try files. So these try files, what it does is, any file you try within this extension, so you say $URL, URI here, then it would route it to this home index file, which is index, as we said, index.html. HTML here. All right, so that's fine. And then I think for now, these are just the basic things you need. The last thing we wanted to worry about, if you want to, it's not mandatory, is the errors. So what if error occurs? Well, errors that are popular with React are on the region of 500. So you can say error, let's say error page. I'll just select this one. So any error with 500, 502, you can list them out, actually just 503, doesn't matter, but I'll just stop at 504. Any error that occurs there, I want it to go to something called 50x. I'll define it in a minute. .html, go to that place and stay. So let's define it really. So again, we just do location. Within this location, we say, hey, anything that occurs with 50x .html, please go there. So anything that occurs here, what should we say? Okay, what we should say is we just point it to the root of the error. So here would be, it would just to go user, share, NGINX, and HTML. So again, this is HTML. So you can see everything here is fine. Make sure that you have spelled that correctly here as well, because if you don't get it here, it wouldn't actually, match. And when you start spinning it up, it will just go, it will go berserk. So let's explain this quickly again. So I'll just go here. The first one here is to just pick the base image, create a working directory. You'll just create a system path. Make sure that this node_module is in the path. Then it will just go and copy all these files and directories for building, and it will actually build. It will actually restore the package and build. Then once it's done, it would Then go and use a new Docker file. This is called multi-stage image build. You'll pick a new Docker image file, and it will just remove the default com file that comes with Docker or NGINX by default. I just want to remove that. I mean, you can have multiples, but I like to remove the default. When I remove it, I just copy mine, which is this. And when I copy mine, I just actually move it into this place. And then once it's copied, I will now go and copy this build artifacts. We copy the build artifact from this build, which is going to match with this name here. And I'll just move it onto, from wherever that is located, onto this place, which is, if you remember, we said this has to be correct. And expose port 3000, that's where I want to run it. And then just put the command for running NGINX. Well, that's that. Then let's go to NGINX. These are just the two things that really matter. The server block, as we said, is the server block listening to port 3000 for both API version 4 and version 6, IPv6. And then this one here is the server name, which is the domain. Then the user share, which is this, actually serves the file. Is a place that files are served from. And if the request is not found, it falls back to index.html, as we said. If it's trying to serve a file and it doesn't find, it will just fall back to this. Okay, so sorry, to fall back to index.html. Okay, so that's that. And then the custom error pages are configured like, as we said, HTTP status 500, 502, 543, 544, with error page being /50x.html, as we said. So these are just configured to catch any error. Any error in that region is going to mess up this. So I am actually just catching and syncing them here, really. So this is where it will just find the default error page for the React that came with the NGINX file, NGINX Docker. So if there's a typo in this, then there will be an issue. Things wouldn't actually work well for you. But please pay attention with typo. I can't remember the last time I did this once and it works, but let's go and run this with fingers crossed as well, and then we can see what would happen. So this is done now. Everything, we just close both of them and just go to console and just run this on CLI. Actually, this is too big, isn't it? Let's minimize. Let's clear this. So the first thing we do is first thing you do is just to make sure that you build this image. So let's build it. So we'll say docker build image. So here I'm going to as you can see from here now, this is coming out. I think I'll just actually choose this. This one is the context, which is where you are. In this case, we've done a change directory and gone inside this React CRUD web, whatever. We are in there. So the context is this dot. And then the next thing is minus tag. I mean, this one you can write it in full. Some people go like this, minus, and then tags. Just write that in tag. You just write that in full. But whatever name you give here is what it would assume. So here, this is what your image will be called. So let's call it that simple thing, and then we say minus f is the location where the file lives. Actually, if you don't really want, you don't have to specify, so long as this Dockerfile here, Dockerfile.prod, is within the same directory where you are. You don't have to specify this really. You can just do without it really, but I like to do that. So let's build this. This context also can be at the end instead of putting it at the beginning. So let me just delete it from here actually. So you can see that you can move things around. So the tag, this image is going to be called as app, minus f is where the file is located. Minus f is used because this one will say minus .prod, isn't it? So if we didn't say .prod, it will just pick it up because a Docker file by default are named Dockerfile, simple as that. Anyway, let's build this. Press and enter. My Docker isn't running, so let's go and start up Docker desktop. So I'll just press and enter. Docker desktop will pop up here. It takes a minute and we'll come back once it's there. Docker desktop is up and running. You can see Kubernetes is trying to start. We don't need this for now. This one is the engine that is running, so that is running. I hope things will be fine. Let's build this again. There you go. So this is now building. It takes a minute to build. Come back once it's finished building. Okay, so you can see that the build is complete. There are a few recommendations anyway, so I think I kind of misguided you guys. I was saying that this is the old way of doing it. So it's just saying, if you see here on this console here, let's go back to the console. CLI, if I go to CLI, just saying, hey, one warning. It's just a warning anyway, but we can fix it. It's just say env key should be key var equals value. So let's do that really, and just rest to build. It's not going to take time really. That's the only env key we've used. So let's take it on. Let's just rebuild this, press and enter, the same thing, but it will just finish quickly. So, but that was a warning, but it's important we correct that. So everything else is built. So if I just clear this place up and do Docker images, press enter. If I do Docker images, you will see your image, anything called app. There you go. That's app. That's the latest. That's built about a minute ago. The size is 77 MB. That's perfect. And that's what we need. Simple as that really. We don't need anything that is bloated. Well, the next thing we need to do now is to, now that we've built it, is to actually either use it, we can run it locally just to see how it's running. So we can say docker run, and then we can just specify whatever we need in it. So for instance, we can say, actually, let's take this one for instance. I'll just delete the API. For now, let's delete the API for now. We'll just talk about API later. As we say, we're not going to spin it up. So here it is. We can just here is the port you want to expose it. We can still expose it to the same port, 3000. So here -b is minus port, and then D is run it but detach yourself. So it's going to run in a detached mode. Some people say it's going to run in a daemon, but that's detached. So this is Docker run in a detached head, which means it won't freeze this console, and then expose it to this port. The port on the right hand side is the port within the Docker, which is this port here that we specified, this port. But then the port on the left hand side is the machine. So it's going to attach it to this physical machine, this MacBook port 3000. So you can change this one, but you cannot change the one on the right. So what is the image? Is going to be this image that we're going to run. So you can specify and choose this image like that. If you have like latest, so this is latest, or any other type, but here is just latest. I don't mind doing that. So this is now running. You can see, and again, just do PS. There you go. Woohoo! Finally, so this is running. It says up 2 seconds ago. So run it again just to check. Up 9 seconds ago. One more time. And run it one more time. 14 seconds. So it's not coming down. So what we need to do now is to go to the path that we have specified. If you remember, we said when we were scripting this that it will be available on a local host. Let's go here and check. So I'm going to go to localhost port 3000 and press on enter to see. Hooray! So this application this time around is now running within the Dockerfile, unlike previously when it wasn't running within the Docker. It was initially we ran it locally. So in the upcoming series, in the upcoming edition, we would be doing a clip where we can then push this Docker image. Actually, let's do it now. Why not? So let's push the Docker to Docker Hub. So guys, to push this image to the Docker Hub, so let's go, because you need to actually save this to a registry somewhere. So with Docker Hub is the most public one. So let's do the Docker Hub, and we're going to log into my account. So I have an account on a Docker Hub. So this is Send Development. Just continue and just log in. So Send Development is just a public account I created. Here are things I've been doing. Let's now kind of, if you like, it's kind of the way we do with codes. You push the code up to a repository. This one is a registry. It's as akin to that. It's just where we can push up this image that we built locally and safeguard it there. So let's go and just see what our account is. What is our account name? And our account name is Send Development. That's good. So you take that and you make sure that you tag all your image with that, really. So the same image that we have, Docker images here, press enter. This image here is the latest one, this image called app. You have to retag that to that name that we just mentioned. So to retag that, you just do docker tag and just mention what that is going to be. So in this case, tag it whatever you like. So here, I'm going to call this our image as react prod app, like that. React prod app, like that, latest. And then here, whatever that image is called, I think the image is called as this. So just tag it this, and then press and enter. It should be able to tag it nicely. Now, if you just go for images, you see now that it's now properly tagged. This is what it will now be, because the convention to push into registry is that your account name must be the beginning / whatever the name you want to give the app. That's what it has to be. Okay, so now that is done, so what we now need to do is to do docker login and push it up upstream. So let's do docker login here. So let's docker login. So here is the don't mind the credentials anyway. So here is the username. I'm going to change this later anyway. So here is the username, and then here is my password, and then this is the registry to Docker. So if I do that, that will log me in. So you can see login succeeded. Now I can push this registry upstream. So we're going to do docker push, just as the name suggests. So I just say whatever that is, that tag was. So I just do type here. That is it. So once you type accounts, which is this thing we tagged here, this is exactly what you got. But I use autocompletion to do that. So if I press an enter now, it should push it to the upstream there, and we can go and verify that. Let's go here and just wait for it to land. We have called it, we have given it that fancy name. Let's see what that name is about again. So that name is React Prod App. That's done. So let's go back. Let's go to here. Let's reload. And there you go. So this is send idea. I'm just going to zoom this out a little bit. Send idea, React Prod App. And then this is now published less than a minute ago. And then this is public. And then that's what you really want to aim for. Thank you and have a good evening. Thank you.